Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you're here. I am so excited for today's video because we are going to be filming my fall TBR. This is every book that I want to read during the fall season. So for the rest of September, October, and November, these are the books that I really want to read. And some of them are going to be like on theme with like October and Halloween. So some of them will be like scary, thriller, mystery books. I really like reading historical fiction or just more fiction books. So I have some fiction books that I want to get to. I have some romances that were released earlier this year, but also some that I just want to get to that are fall theme-ish. Some of them aren't. But yeah, I'm so excited to film this. I'm so excited to start reading books that are fall vibey. So this is every book that I want to read for fall. I broke them down into kind of like genres. So we do have fiction, fantasy, sci-fi, thriller, horror, mystery, and then we also have like romance. But yeah, these are all the books that I plan to read for fall. Okay, we're gonna start with fiction. This one has been on my TBR for so long now that it's honestly crazy. I don't know why I haven't gotten to this yet, but I've heard such great things about it, and it's Alice Hoffman's Magic Lesson. I've heard so many great things about this book. It's been on my TBR for like, I don't know, maybe 2 years now. Like, I've had this book for so long. I really need to get to this book, and I really want to get to it in October, so this book is for sure going to be on my fall TBR this year. The next book on my TBR is Kristin Hannah's The Four Winds. I really like reading historical fiction or just regular fiction during the fall months. For some reason, that like fall and fiction just like something about that just works for me. So definitely want to get to this one. I don't know if this one takes place in the fall season, but I just know that I want to read fiction in fall. The next book I have is called My Murder by Katie Williams. This one is kind of like a fiction mystery thriller, but I think it reads more fiction than it does thriller mystery, so that's why I have it with my fiction selection. This one has to do with this lady gets killed by a serial killer, and she comes back to life and is given like the second chance, but she also has to figure out why she died. I don't know, this one sounds super interesting and I've heard pretty good things about it, so this one is also on my list. The next book I have is called Violetta by Isabel Allende. And this one was actually recommended to me by a friend. It's kind of like a historical fiction. I think it takes place following like the Great Depression, that era. I'm interested to see what this one's about. I've heard good things, so I'm excited for this one too. The next book I have is called The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. I think that's how you say it. This book has been on my TBR for a while now, but I picked this up because it just sounded so fun. There's a group of 4 people who live in this little retirement village. They all get together and start talking about unsolved crimes, and they call themselves the Thursday Murder Club. And something about this just sounds so wholesome in like a murder mystery kind of way. And I don't know, I've heard great things about like this whole series because I think this has at least 4 books. It doesn't actually say on here. I don't know, something about this just appeals to me and I hope I enjoy it, and I can't wait to read this one. The next book on my list is one that I have been wanting to read for so long, and I've been wanting to read it because one of my favorite books is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. And I've heard a lot of people say that If We Were Villains is a lot like this book. So I really want to get to The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I've heard really great things about this one, but I've also heard that if you read If We Were Villains first, you don't really like this one. Or if you read this one first, you don't really like If We Were Villains. So I'm kind of like also nervous to read this one because I really want to like it. So, but I don't know. I've heard a lot of great things about this one, and it's one that I've wanted to read for so long now, and I am very determined to read this one this season. So definitely need to add this one. It's kind of like a mystery thriller, but it reads more fiction, I think, so I'm really excited for this one. And the last book in my fiction genre, I recently read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and I absolutely loved it. I gave it 5 stars, so I really wanted to read more from that author, so I picked up The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry by Gabrielle Zevin. I'm so excited to read this. I really like the writing in Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, so I'm hoping hoping that this one has like a similar writing style. It's also really short. Like it's only 260 pages. So this is going to be a quick short read, but I'm really excited to read it just because, like I said, I really enjoyed this author's writing in Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. So I really wanted to read something more by them. So this one is the last fiction book on my list. Okay, so next genre I want to talk about is my romance genre. So there are 2 books that I have been on the hunt for, but it's literally sold out everywhere. And I guess it's just because and obviously I can tell why, because the books have been all over my TikTok, all over my Instagram. Everybody wants to read these books, so I can't find them anywhere, and I have been on the hunt. But it is Pumpkin Spice Cafe and the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, both by Laurie Gilmore. I want to read those 2 books. They just look so cute. The covers are adorable, and I really want to read those. So I'm probably just going to order them online, because at this rate, going to Barnes, they're always sold out. Those 2 books I don't have, but I do plan to get. The next book I want to read is Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. I know her second book just came out recently, so that one I do eventually want to read when I read this one. But this one is just like a book that I really have been wanting to get to, so I'm putting it on my fall TBR. Don't really know what this is about, but I know it takes place in a small town. It's called The Lakefront Billionaires, and who doesn't like reading about a billionaire? The next book on my TBR is actually Elsie Silver's first series, Off to the Races. They're getting reprinted in new covers. I'm always in the mood for a cowboy romance, so of course I'm adding this to my fall TBR. The next book I have is Love Interest by Claire Gilmore. This is a book that I've heard a lot of great things about, and I really want to get to it. I think this is like an enemies to lovers, because they both have to work on the same project, and I guess everybody loves Alex, but Casey doesn't, so there's like the enemies to lovers vibe, workplace romance probably, so definitely interested in that one, and I'm excited to read this one. And the last romance book that I have on my TBR is actually Ashley Poston's newest release called A Novel Love Story. This one actually I felt is a good book for fall, because it has to do with Eileen gets lost in her favorite book story. And something about finding yourself in your favorite book's world just gives fall vibes to me. And I think it's because if this was to ever happen to me, I feel like it would probably be like a fantasy book. And fantasy is just like super fall vibey. So I don't know. Something about this is screaming fall to me. And I'm so excited to read this. I have heard mixed reviews about it though, because not a lot of people loved it, and I'm kind of worried that I'm not going to love it either, especially since I've loved her past 2 books. I think both of her other books were 4.5-star reads for me. Like, I absolutely love her writing. So I'm hoping I love this one, but I'm also worried because a lot of people said it's not that great. So we'll see, but this one is on my list. I'm so excited to get to this one. Next, we're going to get into all of my fantasy books. The first book is Golden Sun by Pierce Brown. I actually plan to read Golden Sun and Morning Star. So these are the 2 sci-fi books that I have on here. This is the second book in the Red Rising series. I really want to read this series soon, because I don't want to forget the details, because this world can get a little crazy, I've heard, especially since like there's 3 main books, but there's also a couple that follow, but they're not following the main story. I think they're kind of like following other characters or something. The first book, Red Rising, I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it, so I'm excited to keep seeing it, because I've heard it just keeps getting better, which makes sense because the first book was really building up the story, and now we're getting into like the deeper stuff. So I'm excited for this series, and I'm excited to continue it. So this one is also on my TBR. This one and Morning Star, but I just don't have the physical copy yet, so that one, when I get it, I'll obviously read it. Next, I have Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. Guys, this book, why is it so big? Honestly, the length is the reason why I have not wanted to pick it up. It's 615 pages. No, it's not. I lied. It's 623 pages. But I need to read it because it's been staring at me. If you don't already know, Iron Flame is the second book in the Fourth Wing series. I don't know if the series has a name or if it's just called Fourth Wing, but this is the second book in the series, and I even think there's a third one coming out that's called like Onyx something. I don't remember, but there's also a third one coming out soon. And guys, I can't keep up. I can't keep up with these series, and I need to read this one already. So this one's on my list. Next, I have The Familiar. I'm super excited for this one. Something about, first of all, this cover is just like so stunning. I liked her Hellbent series. I've also read her Grishaverse series and Six of Crows series. I enjoy her writing, and I'm excited for this one because this one just sounds like an interesting book. I think it has to do with like witches and like alchemy and stuff like that. I don't know, but this screams October vibes, like witches. So adding this one to my TBR as well. Next on my list is one that I've honestly had, I can't tell you how long I've had this book. And I've gone back and forth between if I even want to read this series, because I've heard it's just, people have said that the writing is just not good or something. And I think that's why I haven't picked it up yet. But I don't know. Should I read this series? I'm putting it on my fall TBR. It's called The Zodiac Academy, and it's by Caroline Peckham and Susan Valenti. Sorry if I said those wrong. But I have heard so many mixed things on this series, and I just haven't made the decision to just like plunge into it, mainly also because are there not like 25 books in this series? How is this series so long? I have no idea if I'm actually going to read this, but I'm putting it on my TBR because I've had this book for so long, and if I don't read it, then I think I might unhaul it. I also heard that they're changing the covers, which if that's true, what am I going to do? Because I have the first one, and then I'm just going to have different covers for all the other ones when they start publishing. But then I also heard that they're not even going to be publishing them in the order. Like, I don't know. I've heard a lot of things, but I'm adding this one to my fall TBR. We shall see if I actually read this. It's on my TBR, so we'll see. Okay, the next book on my list is Masters of Death by Olivia Blake. I've heard a lot of great things about Olivia Blake's writing. Masters of Death sounds like a perfect book for October. So adding this one to my fall TBR. This one apparently follows Viola, who is a struggling real estate agent and a vampire, and Fox Demora, who is a medium, but apparently he's like a fraud. Oh, but he's actually the godson of death. Okay. I don't know, but there's a ghost-infested mansion, and this sounds like it's going to be great, and I hope it's good. So we're adding this one to my list. Also, I really like the green and the cover and the purple. Like, I love this cover. Okay, next I have Reckless by Lauren Roberts, because of course this is the second book in the Powerless series. I'm interested to see where this one goes. I've been putting it off mainly because a lot of people have been giving mixed reviews on it. We'll see. I'm hoping it's good, but we'll see. The next book I have is Heart of the Sun Warrior by Sue Lynn Tan. This one is the second book to The Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I read that one and I thought it was so good, so I can't wait to get to the second one. I'm not really gonna say what it's about just because it is the second book in the series and no spoilers, but I'm interested to get to this one. I think the writing in the first one was just so beautiful. I really, really enjoyed the story. It's not like a crazy high fantasy story by any means, but it's definitely got that fantasy vibe. I don't know. I really liked it, and this one is going to be hopefully just as good as the first one. The next book on my TBR is actually one that's also been on my TBR for so long, and it's another one that, like, if I don't get to it, I think I'm going to end up unhauling it because I've had it for so long and I just have had no interest in actually reading it, especially because it's one of those books that people have said you have to read the first one and just get it over with so that you can get to the other ones because the other ones are better. The next one I have is Guild by Raven Kennedy. I've had this book on my TBR, like I said, forever, and I don't know. We'll see if I actually get to it. It has to do, I think, with Midas. I don't know. We'll see if I finally get to it. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, but I'm adding it to my TBR anyway. The next book on my TBR is one I'm actually really excited for. It's called An Academy for Liars by Alexis Henderson. She actually wrote The Year of the Witching. I read that book either the beginning of this year or at the end of last year. I think it was at the end of last year around the same time, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm actually really interested to read another one by her. But this sounds really cool. Who doesn't want to receive a letter telling them that they're getting accepted into a school of magic? So adding this one as well. So the next genre I'm trying to talk about is thriller slash horror, mystery, all of that fun stuff. The first book I have is called The Lies I Tell by Julie Clark. This one was gifted to me by a friend, so I don't really know what it's about. I don't know. I've heard it's really great, so I'm excited to get to this one. Okay, the next book I have is Lucy Foley's The Paris Apartment. I'm not sure my thoughts on Lucy Foley's writing. I feel like Lucy Foley's stories just don't hit very well for me. So this is kind of like my last effort in seeing if I like this author's writing style, the way they tell their stories. I think so far I've read 2 Lucy Foley's books and they've just been for me. So I don't know if I actually like this author or not. So this is kind of like my last attempt to see should I ever buy another book from this author. This one obviously takes place in Paris. It follows Jess, who's supposed to stay at her brother's Paris apartment until she can get back onto her feet, but her brother disappears, so she's essentially trying to find out what happened to her brother. So it sounds interesting, so we'll see if I actually like it. But adding this one to my TBR. Okay, so the next book on my list is Lane Fargou's They Never Learn. I've heard a lot of great stuff about this book, and also the cover just screams fall to me with the leaves on the floor and stuff. This one follows 2 people, Scarlett Clark, who's a professor at Gorman University, and then Carly Schiller, who is a student at said university. I kind of want to go into this one blind because I've heard a lot of good things about it and a lot of people have recommended doing that, but it does follow those 2 women and it's a college setting and I think it takes place in October too, so this one is on my list as well. This one actually just came out and I'm super excited for it. It is Elena Urquhart's The Butcher Game. It's the second book to The Butcher and the Wren. So excited to see where this one's gonna go. It's a lot longer than her first one. Her first one felt so short. So I'm excited to see where she takes this book, but I'm not gonna give any information on it, but it does have to do with the serial killer, and I do highly recommend The Butcher and the Wren. If you want to read this one, read that one first, just so you're not spoiling anything in this one. But I'm excited for this one. Honestly, fall is just an excuse for me to get through all of my thriller books because I have so many thriller books that I've been waiting until fall to read. And one of them is Lisa Jewell's None of This Is True. This one's been on my TBR since it's come out. I just haven't wanted to read it, but now that it's fall, I want to read thrillers. So this one is also on my TBR. Lisa Jewell, I really enjoyed her writing and I think she does thrillers well. Oh, this is following 2 people, one a podcaster and then just another lady who they both have the same birthday, but one of the girls disappears and Alex, the podcaster, I guess talks or ends up talking about her on the true crime podcast that they have. I don't know, but I've recently realized that I love books that have to do about true crime podcasts. Something about that is so interesting to me, so I think I'm gonna like this one. I recently read Listen for the Lie, and if you haven't read that one, I highly recommend because that one was so good, and it also had to do with the podcaster trying to solve a crime. So I really like crime podcasty books. Something about that, I'm excited for this one. The next book on my list is First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. I think this story follows I think it's a hitman situation or something. The description of it's kind of vague, but it's essentially this woman gets a new identity every time she's given a new assignment, and she gets to know the town she's going to be living in and her target. So she has to learn all this information. I don't know. I heard a lot of good things about this one though, so also something about this cover is just so creepy with the shadow in the door I don't know. It looks creepy to me. But adding this into my TBR. The next books I have are more horror-ish. The first one I have is called Cackle. I didn't know whether to put this one in horror or in fantasy because it kind of fits both. But I do think it's going to be reading more fantasy than horror. I don't know. It's kind of under both, but like I said, I put it under horror. But this one is just a witchy, short, book that I've heard a lot of great things about. I've also heard that this one is a good one to go in blind, so I'm not going to try and read what this is about. But I've heard a lot of good things about it. I've heard it's witchy, and I guess it's scary because it's also classified as horror. But I'm wondering if it's because of witchiness. I don't know. It's going to be a quick short read because it's only like 280 pages. It's under 300 pages, so this will be like a quick one, but I've heard great things about it. The next two books I have are both by Simone St. James. One is The Haunting of Maddie Clare, and the other one is The Broken Girls. Both of these have been on my list for so long, and I really enjoy Simone St. James' writing, so I'm really excited to get to these. Both are spooky. This one takes place in the 1920s, and then this one I think goes back and forth between the 50s and 2014. But I don't know. I'm excited to get spooked, and I've heard great things about both of these books, so I'm hoping these get spooky. I'm excited. This one, I was walking around Barnes, and I saw it, and I just decided to pick it up randomly because something about it just like intrigued me. But this one is called The World's Favorite Ghost Stories, and it's just like a compilation of ghost stories. And what better time to read ghost stories than in October? So I'm really actually interested in this. It's by Toni Brueski. Oh my god, I'm so sorry if I said that terribly wrong. But I don't know if anyone's read this, but I saw it. I thought it looked really interesting, and I love being spooked around Halloween time, so I thought this would be a fun book to read. I like read a story a night or something like that. I don't know. I thought this would be fun, so adding this one to my TBR. The next book recently came out, I think, but I've heard so many great things about it, and it's called Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. I hope I'm saying that right. But I've heard great things about this book. I heard it has to do with like a spooky kid, and creepy kids are one of my favorite things to read about. Like, there's something about a kid doing and saying things that are just like, what? That just like get my brain going. So I'm really excited about this one because the first line, it's actually, I don't know if it's the first line or the first page, but it's literally like, "Good night, Daddo. Good night, Mommy. Mommy and Dad'll leave my room. I pull the covers up to my chin. Other Mommy comes out of the closet. Hi, I say. I'm so excited to see you again." And the last book on my physical TBR is We Used to Live Here by Marcus Kleiwer. And this one has to do with a family lives in this house, and they get a knock on their door one day, and this family's like, "Hey, we used to live here. Can we see the house?" And they never leave. And that, to me, sounds terrifying. So definitely got to read this one. I've heard a lot of great things about it. I'm hoping it's super spooky, because it's giving The Strangers vibes, and that movie's kind of like freaking crazy. So I'm excited to read this one. I'm hoping it's spooky. It sounds like it's gonna be, and I've heard great things. So that one's there. The last books on my TBR are actually ones that I don't have physical copies of, because some of them are on Kindle Unlimited. So a couple of other books that I do have on my TBR are Grey After Dark by Noelle Ihele. I'm so sorry, I'm probably saying that really wrong. But that one's on Kindle Unlimited, so I think I'm going to read that one there. The Exorcist House by Nick Roberts is also on my list. That one's also Kindle Unlimited, so I'm going to be reading it there. What Lies in the Woods by Kate Marshall. Another Kindle Unlimited, another thriller, spooky vibe. And Sleep Tight by J.H. Markert, I think is how you say it. This one's a new release, so I'm hoping I'll find it in Barnes the next time I go. But first of all, the cover, terrifying. And Sleep Tight, that's terrifying. So this one's a horror, and it's a new release, so I'm excited to read this one because I just need all the spooky books that I can get in October. And the last book I really want to get to, hopefully, is which is actually more than just one book, but it's V.E. Schwab's A Darker Shade of Magic. I think it's a trilogy. I really want to get to that series. I've heard so many great things about it, and I absolutely love V. Schwab. So I need to finally read that series because I've been thinking about reading it for so long now. So I'm hoping that because I'll be in a fantasy mood, that's one that I want to get to in the next couple months. So I'm also going to plan on reading that series this season. But yeah, those are all the 30 plus books that are on my fall TBR. I am super excited to just start reading fantasy books again because I haven't been reading a lot of fantasy because I haven't really been in the mood for it. But now that fall's here, I'm super in a fantasy mood. I'm in a horror mood. I'm in a thriller mood. There's not a lot of romances on my TBR just because typically around this time I don't read that many romances. Not that I'm not going to read any, but I will be reading less than I have the past couple months. But yeah, I'm super excited and I can't wait for October. I can't wait to start decorating for fall. And as you can see, I already have some spooky friends over here, but I'm so excited. I'm so excited for the next couple months leading into the holidays and stuff. It's always the best time. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what's on your fall TBR. Are any of these books on your TBR? Have you read any of these books? Let me know down below. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.